All right, so today I get to sit down with a dear friend, Summer. So this is, I've been saying this, I don't know if you saw, I've been saying prodiGAL, like you're prodiGAL Summer.
Nice.
Not just a prodigal, you're prodiGAL. So
I
this
love
is
it.
prodiGAL Summer, and she's just going to be sharing her testimony with us today. So you just tell them a little bit about yourself, and then I'll say how we're connected and all the things.
Yes, so I am Summer Garcia. I am I actually finished ministry college, and now I am going back to get my mental health coaching degree. God has been very faithful in my life, and I'm super excited to be here.
Yes. So we worked together at Truett's.
Yeah.
So that was our original connection.
Yes.
And we didn't know each other that well there because we would either work opposite, at opposite, what's the word? Places. Opposite shifts.
Yeah.
Or if we were there together, we would be in two separate areas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if in the same, it's a busy day, you can't really talk.
Yeah.
So afterwards, we follow each other on social media, and I think I really just wanted to chat with you about some stuff. I was like, let's get together, let's talk. So we went and got coffee and all the things. So I heard a little bit more of her story, and then when this whole podcast came on my heart from the Lord, you were one of the first people I thought about. So that is how we're here. So I just jump right in. Just tell me your spiritual upbringing in your home. Like, how was that for you?
And the spiritual growing up in the home was, from a young child, church was not a part of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
We believed in God, but there was never any, going to church and being a part of a community.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew I had heard about the gospel. I went to a Christian school at the time. So basically that's how I first really heard the word of God.
Right.
And then when we got a little bit older in my teens, we started being a little bit part of a church, but it was a very unhealthy church.
Yeah.
So eventually I ended up becoming an atheist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the age at that point you were atheist?
The atheist was in my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how old are you now? I don't know if you
I'll be 30 in August.
Okay. Awesome. So how was, let's see, like the high school years, what do you think shifted, the high school and college years, what do you think shifted your mindset on, like, this isn't for me?
Well, crazy enough is when I lived a normal life and had goals and aspirations. I wanted to go to UGA. I had a lot of friends. I was really social, had a lot of, dreams and aspirations.
Right.
And school was very easy to me. I was very successful in everything. And then when I was 15, mentally stuff just started to change.
Yeah.
And I ended up running away from home when I was 15. So from about 15 to almost 18, I had left my entire family and all my friends and everything that I had known.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was hearing voices. I was seeing things. I was believing things. I was very over religious about everything, And the
like you mean, like, is that demon? Is that God? Is that what you mean? Like the voices?
The voices were so, oh my gosh, they were so overpowering. It was, at first it started every once in a while, and then it became every step that I did.
Right.
And so but in my head it was the voice of God, which it was not.
Right.
And so when I was 17, we were still in this really bad church, and it was horrible, but when I was about to be 18, maybe a few months before 18, I was in my senior year. Mm-hmm. I was not completing any schoolwork. I was 97 pounds. I was not eating. I was not bathing. I mean, so people that I was living with were like, hey, they called my family. They're like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And so I had a complete mental breakdown. I could not do anything. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I couldn't finish a sentence. I could sit there and have a bowl of cereal. I would maybe have 2 pieces of that cereal. And so it just progressively got worse and worse and worse. And then they called up my mom, who raised me as a single mom. And they're like, something's wrong. And I remember packing my bags up and coming home. And when I came home, my mom was sleeping, and I just kneeled by her. I hadn't seen her in years. She's like, "Where's my daughter?" I was pale. I was literally like this because I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. I was 97 pounds. And she's like, "Where's my baby? Who are you?" Like, the look in my eye was not even Summer Garcia anymore. It was like looking at this terrifying thing. And so, over the next week after going back home, I got put into a mental hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never heard of this place. I'd only heard, when you think about mental hospitals, you think about, people in straitjackets and hearing
The
screaming.
only exposure you know is movies, so
You
of course
just,
it's extreme.
yes. And
Yeah.
when I went in there, they sat me down and they admitted me. And I remember holding my mom's hand as the door divided us. It was so heartbreaking. I look back as healthy. I'm like, oh my gosh, like my mom's first baby is being admitted to a mental hospital.
Right.
And so I got put in there, and I was diagnosed with a brain disorder, that my brain had missing pieces, chemically, physically, all that. So I had to learn how to walk again, how to talk again, how to eat again, how to read again, how to write again. And so after that was a 2-month period. And so I know that we'll get more into other details in the middle, but once I got healthy, which has been a miracle, even though at the beginning of the story I did not have faith anymore, because when I got better and was healthy, I was like, I don't want anything to do with this God.
Yeah.
If he's real, because look
if
at,
he let this happen to me.
Yeah. And I was like, I came from an unhealthy church with hypocritical people that were overzealous and there's not even a word about how unhealthy it was. And so I just stopped believing. I was like, what is the point? I was like, God, you're not real to me. Like, I was like talking to nobody almost. Like, if there's a God, I'm done. You know? So, yeah.
Okay, so what age was that? 18? Or was this 20?
So
you got out of the mental hospital.
Yeah, got out of the mental hospital.
Okay.
We still had a faith-based home, but years went by and the faith just left. In probably my early 20s, Jesus, I was like, no. Yeah. I don't want.
Was it an anger, or was it just a annoyance? Like, just don't talk about it, or were you like mad?
I was so angry because I had watched. I didn't have a healthy way of looking at God.
Right.
Because here I am. I'm like, the scariest people ask me. They're like, "Was it scary in the mental hospital?" And I look at them and I said, no. I said, the scariest part is starting life over. I was learning my likes, my wants, my dislikes, my favorite things. I remember the first time I felt love for people from my mama. I remember looking up, we were at her house, and I felt true love for her for the first time. I remember just being like, wow.
Yeah.
I've been so sick that I couldn't even feel love.
So that was still in your time where you felt like you were atheist, right? Is that what you're saying?
So my grandma passed away.
Okay.
And just numerous things happened.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I will not put up with Christianity. I was like, I'm done. Church, I was like, I will never pass the threshold of a religious Christianity building ever.
Yeah.
So
when was the time that you felt the love? Was that during that time, or was it after?
The love for my grandma and even my mom and my siblings and my friends. That was before I met the Lord.
Okay.
But I was healthy. I was
Yeah.
finally healthy.
Right.
So I was able to
Right.
comprehend that there's love for people.
Yeah.
And there's love for, I remember being so excited to be like, oh my gosh, my favorite color is blue. Because while I was sick, my favorite color was purple. If that makes sense.
Yeah, like it's a whole new life. Like I was
Scary.
listening to a podcast the other day, and it was this girl talking about how she was on the antidepressants for like 20 years or something,
Yeah.
and she finally like cold turkey quit. And there's a lot more to that story. I'm not going to get into
Yeah.
it, but she described it like you're looking out a window and it's completely foggy, and then you just start erasing the fog, and it's terrifying because you're
Yeah.
seeing the world for the beauty it is, but also you're seeing the dirt, you're seeing the brokenness. So it's like you're seeing the good and the bad in a whole new light.
The hardest thing was not being in the mental hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It was picking up the pieces of a life that was in shambles.
Right.
Because I had left all my friends. I have 6 siblings. I cut off relationships with all of them. I hurt a lot of people while I was sick. I look at people in my life that there was people that when I got out of the mental hospital, I thought, oh my God, they're going to be, I couldn't wait to see them and show them, hey, this is me. This is the real Summer. And they would, even some, still to this day, I've apologized, will not give me the time of day. Because I hurt them so bad. Yeah. But I had to realize, and I realized this after accepting Christ, was you got to forgive yourself and move past that guilt. It was really hard seeing my family's hurt in church, and that's something that really made me angry about Christianity, because I was like, churches hurt my family. It's not just me. Churches hurt my family, and I'm done. Mm-hmm. But little did I know what journey I would go on when I was 24.
Okay, so go ahead and go into that. It was a great segue.
When I was 24, I was working. I had went to college a year for communication, and I was working at Ingles in Barnesville at the time, and that was my favorite job till date. Yeah. I know that sounds crazy, but we had a good time.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, about a week. It was like November 2018. Mm-hmm. And then the first couple weeks of December, I kept thinking, I was watching, when you watch the news, you see some scary stuff. Like, I don't like watching the news. I'm like, I don't want,
Yeah.
But I was looking around at my surroundings, and the question kept popping in my head. Mm-hmm. If this Jesus is real and he comes back, I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
This was probably about a 5 to 6 week daily thought. If this Jesus is real, I'm not going to make it. If this rapture is real, like, I'm stuck to the ground, mm-hmm. and I'm going to be left. And so, it was December 18th, and a little bit about my testimony is I had been addicted to pornography, since the age of 9. And that's really taboo to talk about, especially for us women, especially just females in general. It was something that was accepted, and there was no repercussions to watch it.
Just look it up.
Just look it up, and there you go. And so it really started to take a toll, on me. Mm-hmm. And it was a morning, and I had watched it early in the morning. And I know this, I'm just being real. Just being real. And I was in my bedroom, my door was closed, and I was committing suicide. I literally was like, I'm going to go in there, get a razor, and cut my wrist. I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is since 9 years old. I cannot do it anymore. And then all of a sudden, the presence of the Lord came into my room. It was Jesus himself. And people were like, how did you? I knew it. And it was like the presence of God was just so strong in my room. And it was just me and Jesus. And, some people, I love church, and I now love church, and I love to hear people's come to Jesus moment. But mine wasn't in a big service or around a lot of people or at a revival or around a Bible study. It was me and Jesus. And I fell to my knees.
In a very dark moment.
It was a very dark moment. It was like, it's like the devil was there thinking he had it like high.
Gotcha.
And then the presence of God was so strong. Yep. And I just accepted the Lord into my heart. And I remember, and my mom is we were, always taught about Christianity. Even though we went to an unhealthy church, my mom was always like, she knew about how I felt religiously. And she'd be like, Summer, you know what's real. And I ran to the living room. I'm like, Mama, you were right. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, I just accepted the Lord into my life. She has like this look on her face, and I was like, Mama, you were right. And I said, and she was like, I can't even remember. I couldn't see her face, and she was like, praise the Lord. Like, I've been praying.
Like, what?
She's like, what? And so I said, I'm going to church on Sunday. I didn't know where I was going to go to church, but the Lord was like, go to church. And I was sitting there praying, just accepting Him. I'm like, where do I go? Like, what is a good church? Everything I have known in church has been bad. And He said, go back home. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Go back. Where's home? Where's home? And home was Griffin First. It was the first place I heard about Jesus. I went to school when it was Griffin Christian Academy, and I was terrified. I was like, I thought I would never. So I called my uncle up because I didn't have a car at the time. And I was like, hey, this Sunday before you go to church at your church, can you drop me off at Griffin First? And so I was terrified. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? And so I got up that Sunday, got dressed, and I remember looking at the building and being like, this place is huge. I forgot how huge this place is.
Yeah.
Because I'd only been a little girl, And so I walked up and I went, and I opened the door. I was like, here we go. Here we go.
You're walking through the threshold.
Walking through the threshold of a place I said I would never go again. And I look over, and I see a group of young adults, and I was like, I didn't think nothing about it. I just thought, there's a group of people. And so I kind of timidly walked up to the guest reception area. I was like, hi, it's like, do y'all have any like young adults or young people stuff? And the lady was just a good friend of mine now, Miss April Blackman. She was like, young adults right there. I was like, okay. So there was a good amount of people, and so I walked around. Like, I have no idea who anybody is. I'm by myself. I don't have nobody to be like, hey, And there was Bobby and Hillary Seegers. And they welcomed me. I was like, and all these people talking to me, like putting input and just showing me the real love of God. And that couple, hopefully you'll watch this, will never know how they changed how the Lord used them to change my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. So you stayed involved in Griffin First for a few years. Did you do schooling there? Well, or not yet? Because they have Valor, which is a college type school.
So when I went to Griffin First for the first time, I was 24.
Okay.
And so I was really involved with the young adults. And I saw these kids talking about this school, Valor. What is And so I didn't think about it. And I started going to like church events, young adult events, getting really involved.
Yeah.
And I remember one day, God, I mean, this was such not I wouldn't say demand, but like almost a commandment of the Lord. I will never forget this. He said, "You go sign up right now." I mean, loud and clear.
Like, why are you screaming?
I'm like, Lord, is that you? Is that just my own thoughts? So I went to like applied, and I was like, okay, whatever. Didn't think I would get in, and then I got in, and I was like, I did step by step by step, and I'm not really then doing tours and doing all this stuff for the campus, and it still hadn't dawned on me. And then my whole life was changed, and I began to be a Valor student, and I was 25. I was the oldest person there, and I was old. When I graduated, I was the oldest person. I was the big sis. I was the one that had to calm everybody down. I got you. Calm down.
Yeah.
And it was the greatest experience of my life. Mm-hmm. To this day, it changed my whole life. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. So now, post Christ.
Yeah.
My friend says BC and AC, before
yeah.
Christ, after Christ.
Yeah.
So AC time. How has that been for you? What's your life looked like? What have you overcome? What have you grown from? Like all the things, if you want to talk about it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So going back to the health journey, mm-hmm. When I was in the hospital, we had meetings with our social workers, mm-hmm. and the nurses, and they sat me and my mom down. I was only 17. I was just about to turn 18. But when I was there for the first month, I wasn't 18 yet, so I had to have a parent with me. And so they told my mom, they told her, they were like, your daughter will have to live with you for the rest of your life. She will not finish school, especially college. It'll be very, very hard for her. I remember at one of the meetings, they said, I will be a window washer. And they said that she does not need to be around any religious association, whether Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism. They were like, she does not need to have religion in her life. And I was literally given a list of what I couldn't do. And they said she will go through remissions around these months and this period of time. And I was like, heck. And at first, the first couple, probably between 18 and 22, mm-hmm. I let it really define who I was. I was afraid to get out of the house. I was afraid to do any tasks, even though I was healthy. Because I had been told all those things.
And they're trusted people.
Yeah.
Like, you're thinking, all these doctors are telling me this. Okay, I definitely can't then. You know?
Like, I was told she can't have any stress. I was like, okay, so I can't have any stress. So college is out the boot. College, I can't do college.
Might as well just not walk out the door. Like, this world is...
So, literally, my butt was planted to a chair and watch TV. And literally, when I was 23, my mom said, you're getting up. You're getting a job. I got a job. And so, now that we're talking about now, I have finished college. I work full time. I'm in ministry. I'm going back to college. I did over 40 classes in college. I'm doing 3 right now. And I have lived a healthy life for how many years? 12 years with no remission, with no going back. And what I have accomplished through Christ, even when I didn't know him, he was with me. What I have accomplished is unheard of.
Yeah.
Especially in the mental health community. Because those things you are told is impossible for you. And so I decided, I was like, I will not de- let defeat be my life. Just complete shambles.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm so blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And God has been so faithful.
Right.
And I've been through a lot in my life, especially the past year, which I'm very vulnerable to talk about. I mean, I'm very open to talk about that as well. And I just, I refuse defeat.
Yeah. Your tattoo says overcomer with a cross.
Overcomer. Yeah. I remember being 14 and going to a random ministry conference, and this woman came over and she was like, "You need to say overcomer, 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 overcomer." I was 14. I was not a Christian. I'm like, overcomer, okay. But that was prophetic at 14, and now it's 29. That was so prophetic, but I didn't know it was prophetic at the time.
Yeah.
Because so many times we look for God to show us that like answer right after something's spoken over us or situation. It could be decades before you're like, snap, like I understand now.
Yeah, and the fact He let you remember that.
Yeah, I've never forgotten that. Especially, and they gave me Philippians 3:13 through 16. It was talking about forgetting those things behind us. That was really hard. That was probably the hardest thing in my Christian walk was forgetting the past. Because literally it was so traumatizing. You're literally in a mental hospital.
Having to relearn how to live.
Relearning how to live.
Yeah.
I didn't.
You had an addiction.
I had an addiction.
You ran away. I mean, just a lot of trauma.
I had to pick up pieces of my life.
Yeah.
But the Lord really, really just told me, stop saying you're sorry. Yeah. It's forgiven.
Yeah. Forgiven and forgotten.
It's done. I don't remember why. He literally was like, why do you keep bringing it up? Like, I'm like, I think God kind of sometimes gets sick and tired of us saying the same thing over again. He's like,
it's like you put something down at the altar and you walk away and then you pick it back off the altar like, and then bring it back.
He's like, what the world? Why do you keep picking it up, hon? You know?
Yeah, I'm taking care of it.
But sometimes we're our own worst enemies.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. We talk about the devil, but sometimes it's just, not good.
That's what you're getting saved from because your worst problem is in here.
Yes.
There ain't nobody else. It's just you.
Yes.
So you mentioned this past year. Do you want to talk about that in as much as detail as you want?
God's goodness has been, and it's crazy, but I felt a release from the Lord to talk about it. At first, God was like, just let me wait. Just wait to talk about it. I was in a very toxic relationship. It was very, very tough. A lot of decisions made that I had to get restored. There's a lot of my life, my dreams needed restoration. My life needed restoration because, our walk with Christ is not perfect. And sometimes, and it's inevitable for everybody, sometimes we fall and just have to get back up. And at the end of the relationship, I was like, it was like when I left that relationship and I packed my bags.
Y'all were married.
Yeah, we were married. And oh my gosh, when I left, it was like almost similar to going back to the hospital in the sense of you're having to learn a new life, having to learn what the Lord wants and learning what Summer wants and what's healthy for Summer. And there were so many red flags and so many things that I should have listened to. But I was so enamored and so, oh, this is from the Lord. But I'm very, very sure of this, that everything I went through is for this moment. because there's women out there and men that are in relationships where there's manipulation, when there's abuse, when there's toxicity, and they don't know how to get out of it. And to this day, I packed a bag and I sat in the van. I had a van at the time, and I sat there. I was like, "Am I doing this?" I sat there for a good 10 minutes. I was like, "Lord, if you want me to do this, let me crank that car." And before, I don't know how I got from point A to point B. And I knocked on my mom's door, and I just fell and just was honest with her. She's like,
And this is so interesting to me because the first time you went back home, you used the words "I went back home,"
yeah,
knelt at my mom's bedside. And then
yeah,
you went back home. You just said,
church.
"I went back home." Yeah, you went back home to church.
Yeah,
You found the Lord.
yeah,
That's the biggest, going back home.
yeah,
And then you went back home to your mom this
yeah,
time. It just like when I hear going back home, I always think of the prodigal son story.
yeah,
That's just what it reminds me
yeah,
of. And as much as your mom may not have been, she's not God, so she's not
yeah,
like, "I'm so happy," even though you're broken on her bedside. You know,
yeah,
in
yeah,
that season
yeah,
of your life,
yeah,
it was a different response.
yeah,
But I think there's still so much grace and love from the Lord
yeah,
to see that connection. I don't know. I just love that.
yeah. Because I had lost who Summer was and what Summer was meant to be in the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I always talk about when I talk to people is you gotta know your identity, and I became this on fire firecracker to being like, who am I anymore?
During the marriage.
During the marriage. Okay. And it was like,
you lost yourself.
I lost myself. I lost, what does Summer love to do? What does Summer?
It's kind of like what you went through.
Yeah, it's like a full circle moment.
Yeah.
And so I literally went to my mom's and just bawled. I was like, this is what's been going on. And funny enough, in the relationship, I had backed away from relationships. Not completely, but my mom would be like, I never hear from you. And you never come visit me. And so, honestly, it's kind of like the Lord was saying, too, I missed you, too. You're so caught up in the manipulation and the toxicity and the trying to please something that is not healthy that it's like, where have I missed you, Summer? The Lord says. And then I went, before moving back in with my mom, I went to my best friend's house and stayed with her for a week just to recuperate and get my stuff together. And you know what I first did? I went shopping for the first time with my own money, and I got a journal, and I got a drawing pad, and I forgot how much I loved to write and to draw. And so I just put my thoughts on this notebook, and I read it again recently, because it said, Summer, you're going to look back at this and be so proud of who you are. And I had realized that, and for you girls, boys, men and women, when you get in a relationship, that relationship doesn't need two halves. It needs two whole people. And it's going to bring Christ glorified and Him glorified. Mm-hmm. And please, please, if you see one red flag, run.
Well, you said this that really impacted me when we were at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Like, it hugely impacted my healing journey.
Yeah.
You said, I didn't realize letting Him in also brought all His demons with Him. That changed my life, like, of my healing. Like, I mean, I felt the Lord talking to me through you.
Yeah.
So talk about that. Like, what, not the details, but, like, what does that mean to you?
When you become in a relationship with somebody, or whether it's a
Even
friendship,
a friend, yeah.
A relationship, any kind of relationship in general.
Yeah.
You either have a portal that's open to the presence of God, or you have a portal that's weighted with legions of enemies and demons following. And it can't be both. The relationship cannot bring both. It's going to bring one or the other. Mm-hmm. And I started doing things that I had been delivered from for a long time, and started letting things in my life that I would have never have let happen. But I was so enamored by, oh, love and all this stuff, something that, but the enemy knows how to get us.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what our weakness is. He knows.
Well, that's a human desire
Yeah.
to be married, and you finally had that. And
Yes. And so I thought, oh, this is church is involved, and but it opened up the portal of. I will say this: the sick period of my life was the darkest time, in one sense. But I was sick, so I couldn't see reality. That few years of that relationship was the darkest time of my life.
because you knew the light, you
Yes.
knew the Lord
Yes.
now,
Yes.
and then it's like you're involved in this,
Yes.
and you're like, what am I doing? Like, it's literally an identity crisis, because you actually do know your identity, but you are walking away from it every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally, it was like, who, like, what in the world has my life been? It was like a full circle,
Repeat.
like, I wonder if I'll be 60 and like this happen again, like something.
Do not, Lord.
I'll be
Like,
you know what I mean? But
yeah.
it was like, oh my gosh, like, and the enemy knows, and for girls especially, us girls, we, especially in the church, especially in the Bible Belt, go to ministry school, we go to our youth group, we go and we're always looking. Mm-hmm. We see a single guy walk through the door, and we're like, oh,
that has to be the one.
that has to be the one. He has a Bible in his hand.
Girl.
No, that does not mean. That has nothing. And the devil knows we don't like to wait, but the devil knows with me, I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't think even though I love the Lord and had a relationship with the Lord, I did not feel I had any worth. I had not found that worth yet. Mm-hmm. Because I was like, here's a guy. He's not what I prayed for, but I guess because of all the mistakes I've made in life, I'm not going to get anything better. And in the relationship, it was, you're selfish, you're lazy, you're all these things.
Like, spoken over you.
Yes. Yeah. So this is what I believed. Mm-hmm. And so it gives me a fire for these young girls. Do not give a portal to the enemy. No matter who comes in your life. If God says no, he means no for your own good.
And there's a huge part of yourself that will not feel right with it.
Oh my
and
gosh.
That is also God trying to warn you with the big flashing red lights, and you're going to try to fix them. You're going to try and brush away what is reality. Yes. But the Lord's trying to spare you from months, years, lifetime of pain.
And what was so bad is I was like, well, I guess this is just how a marriage or a relationship is supposed to be. I thought, we're just going through a battle with the devil. But it was so much more than that. I thought, oh, what we're going through, we're just going through we're going through temptation and no. If that person is bringing you back to your same addictions and your same issues, you need to run. If it's not glorifying God, but I learned I had to love myself before. Of course, love God, but love myself. Because there is nothing wrong with having high standards. Mm-mm. If that guy is not respecting you or your body, it doesn't matter how many scriptures he knows. You say, oh, excuse me, I'm a child of God. You are not going to speak over my body like that or touch my body like that. I am a child of God. You better
And
recognize.
let me just say this. I don't believe child of gods would do that to someone else.
Yes. What I want in a relationship, mm-hmm. whether it's friendship, whether it's family, I want to be able, it's like our relationship. I know I can call you on drop of a hat and you would sit there and pray for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, intercede. Love, and that love of your life is
will be the number one. Yeah.
That love of your life is going to be selfless. It's going to be, but I said this earlier, but I was watching, I don't know if you remember the Real talk show, The Real. Mm-hmm. And I love the group of women because they all come different backgrounds and
Yes,
different.
yes.
And Tamara Maury Housley spoke. She was talking about you need to enjoy single. Even though she's married and has kids, she was like, I wish I had cherished singledom because it was just me and God time.
Right.
It was me and the Lord, because she was like, I thought I was looking for one half of a person to become whole. But it takes two whole people to come full circle and become a complete, not just a whole, but almost like a globe, a solid globe.
With Christ standing right on top.
Yes.
Mending you together.
And so it doesn't need to be two halves. It needs to be two wholes.
And that's such like everyone says now, like, enjoy your singleness, like really soak it up. And I think for a lot of girls it goes in when you're not the other. They're like, oh my gosh, I've heard that at so many conferences. I hear that every Wednesday night. But it's so monumental, not in the sense of you have to just put it in your back pocket and go, I'll just tough it out. I have to do. It's to realize, like, this season is for a purpose. And like someone said the other day, and this is like much more logistical, but the Lord does all this too. Like, even your time that you're supposed to be married to your person also means that your kids are supposed to be born at the certain time they're supposed to be born, which means their ministry opportunities are going to be going to be grown when they're at a certain age. Like, it's so much deeper than just, I want to get married, I want to have kids at 25. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Lord has it planned out. And if you rest in your season now, like, it's going to be so much more beautiful and orchestrated the way the Lord always wanted it to be for you.
So what's so beautiful about all those rough seasons was learning about myself. And learning about finding all these periods of my life was finding Summer in a different level. I remember just sitting there in my bedroom, and I had cleaned it and I decorated it, and I was by myself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my life now. And I didn't like cry of hurt and pain. I sat there and cried of thankfulness, because I'm like, Lord, you've saved me so many times, and you've restored me. And it's been a journey. It's been a healing journey. It's being delivered and shutting those portals down. It has not been easy. There has been times where I feel overwhelmed. There has been times where I'm like, am I making the right decision? But then I look at my life now, and I found, after leaving this abusive relationship, I found the calling of God. Really, for the first time, in the sense of, I don't think I've ever told you this, but the exact ministry. I knew I was always meant to preach, but I didn't know who. I'd always thought, oh, maybe to the youth, or maybe to, he was like, the women, the mental health community. The mental health community in the church is almost non-existent. It is almost, oh my gosh, medication's demonic, or, you don't need to, overanalyze and over religiously thought about. And Jesus simply told me, the Lord told me, I was sitting there, I prayed every day. I was like, Lord, get me off this medicine. He was like, Summer, he brought me to a scripture of when Jesus put the clay over the eyes. And he said, Summer, your medicine's your clay. And I'm like, well, Lord, I received that. And he was like, I never want you to think that you did anything. I want it all to be for me. And it's been such a help journey physically, because I was like, oh my gosh, the Lord wants to restore my body through the increasing relationship with him. I've lost 30 pounds because I have found God every little bit, everything. I want you to be glorified. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love your story. I heard it a little in the coffee shop, and every time I hear more on Facebook, or obviously in person's the best.
Yeah.
It always just grows my joy and love for the Lord of being thankful.
Yeah.
I have just some fun ending questions.
Okay.
Just to ask you.
Yes.
What's your worship song on repeat right now?
Oh my gosh, the Anthem by Planet Shakers.
Every time I've been talking to people about this, I've never heard the songs they sang.
Girl, oh my gosh, when Pastor David did it at church about 3 months ago, I sat there and bawled. It's not like a sit there and, it's like sitting there and just like
Receiving
shouting
it
and like,
just, yeah.
It says, death could not hold your hand. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it.
I need to listen. The Anthem by what?
Planet Shakers.
Planet Shakers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Who is your favorite character in the Bible?
Oh my
Or the story
goodness.
you love or whatever?
Can I say two?
Yeah.
I love Esther because she was a strong woman. And without her obedience, we would not be here.
Mm-hmm.
It was the lineage of David to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love, of course, Saul because I see a lot of myself in Saul because he became Paul. And he was a murderer and did a lot of stuff. And yet he still found redemption and forgiveness.
He murdered Christians, and then he became one of the most powerful Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, those are good choices.
Yeah.
And then what is your advice for someone that may be in the same season that you once were?
Oh,
I know you've said advice all throughout, but what would be like your closing plea?
My closing plea: forgive yourself. It's the heart. We can receive forgiveness from God, but so many times we can't forgive ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You will feel so much better if you just let it go and forgive yourself and let yourself heal and know your worth.
Mm-hmm.
Speak. Yeah, speak too. Speak.
Yeah. Good. Say a little bit about what you're saying. That
speak is something the Lord gave to me. Actually, in the ending, the last couple months of the relationship ending, he gave me Speak Ministries, and it's for it's for these people that feel like they don't have a voice, especially in the mental health community or in abusive or manipulative relationships. Because if you just speak, just let out. The first thing I had to do to become who I was admitting I had an issue, admitting myself to the hospital, saying I need help. And so many times we just need to say one word, and it can change our lives. Mm-hmm. Just one word. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me. I loved every second of this. So that's all we have for today.